Hey there, my name is Przemek and this is the review of Nimh double CD early electronic works Caustic Composite. Nimh is a project from Italy and the man behind it is Giuseppe Verticchio. Quite experienced, present on the scene since mid-90s. He's one of, I could say, my silent heroes during my ambient experimental journeys. While I like his solo works, as Nimh, I'd like to mention two collaborations he was involved in, both extremely important to me. One is Sator album, recorded together with Amon or Amon. Needless to say that later both musicians, Giuseppe and Andrea Maruti, has made 4 follow-ups to Sator, but under a different name, that is Hall of Mirrors. The other collaboration, which was very important in my life, even I could say, is Secluded Truths, made together with industrial experimental Italian legend Maurizio Bianchi. Especially the first composition on that album, Before the Light, to me is like a model, a perfect example of how to achieve the oniric effect in ambient music. Apart from that, Nimh solo has recorded several albums for such labels as Weird Amplexus, Silentis, Avon, Rage in Eden or Winterlight. This Zacharom release doesn't contain any doesn't contain any new or present music. On the contrary, these are Giuseppe's beginnings and first experiments on the experimental field. Never released before, I believe. For sure they are never released. All tracks were recorded live in the 90s, no editing, overdubs or mixing. Also, such archival releases aren't anything new for Zacharom label. It's like one of their releasing policies. For example, recently they dig deep in Widna Obmana old materials, and perhaps I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that this isn't the last Nimh old stuff we get to know thanks to this Polish label. 2 CDs. The first one, Caustic, is built of 3 long, well, I wouldn't dare to say compositions. It's more like electronic impressions, and the title Caustic fits them quite well. These are long improvised synthetic drones, quite dense and claustrophobic, I would say. And while the dynamics changes every now and then in the background, for a listener who's not used to this kind of music, they may seem quite monotonous. For example, when I was listening to this one the other evening, my girlfriend entered the room and asked me, "So you're listening to Plane Engine now?" You know, this kind of impressions it may arouse. Of course, it's not entirely true. Those 3 tracks have more shades and colors than it initially may seem. But indeed, the changes are subtle and stretched in time enough to admit that the first CD may put you in a certain state of trance. The second, Composite, is evidently more diverse. The tracks are shorter, obviously, as there are 8 of them on this second CD, and a lot more is happening there. For example, Composite Part 2 is composed of noisy, atmospheric, yes, but still pretty noisy walls of sound. Composite Part 6 has some rhythms and pulsations, like I don't know, from some low-budget sci-fi movie. And the last composite, composite number 8, is like an evening in an underground industrial dance club. So this double album is like a foundation for Nimh music. Giuseppe Verticchio was developing and improving his ideas on the regular albums like Impossible Days or Subterranean Thoughts. It has to be mentioned that with years his perspective was evolving as well. He started to implement a lot of samples and field recordings, often from his Far East journeys. He enriched his music also by using ethnic instruments, and now I might say he has reached the position when you never know what to expect on another release. I think this may be considered as an advantage. But these mentioned foundations maybe not on all albums, but are still present in his music. Like, for example, on his Winterlight release, not the split with Rapun, but his solo work, which title I've just forgot. Sorry. To be honest, I don't think I'll be listening to this very often, as I prefer Nimh on his regular albums and also in his so-called lighter form. Also, I think I prefer when his music was less based on instinct, but was more thoughtful and deliberate. But certainly these early electronic works have a now doubtful historical value for any ambient experimental connoisseur. And in this aspect, I think if you consider as a connoisseur of this kind of music, you should at least listen to this to see how this style was forged. Thanks for watching and see you soon.